Hey guys, it's Steve. Sorry, I'm a little bit late this morning. I'm going to try to get better about that, but actually covers an interesting thing. What do you do when you have a property, or how do you advise the seller when you have a property and it's winter and no one living there? Well, first of all, I never let my sellers cut off the electricity. I can't stop them, and there's two reasons for that. One is people might need to go in at night. Flashlights aren't the best way to do anything. And in the winter, I encourage them to keep whatever their heating source is on as well. That would mean that whether your gas, electric, oil, whatever it might be, get that on, keep that on low, 50, whatever, 40, something, and wrap your pipes in the basement with an electric plug-in tape. You then also want to drain the house of any water and shut off the water main. In fact, actually shut off the water main is the first thing. Whenever I leave a house for any period of time, winter, summer, spring, or fall, I shut off the water meter. That way, if something should break, it doesn't just continue to go everywhere. And then just pour a little bit of antifreeze into the traps, meaning down every sink, into the toilet tank and toilet bowl, because you never get all the water out. Doesn't matter what you try to do, there's still some left. So make sure that the home is secured. And also I tell the owners, whenever there's a snowstorm or something, to always kind of shovel it off so it looks like something's living there. Basic security. Anyway, that wasn't really what I wanted to cover today. What I wanted to cover today is deal analysis on the properties and basically show you how we determine what's a good deal. But I wanted to cover a few other things that came up in questions. Billy from can't really even remember where you're from, Billy. Sorry. Western Ohio, actually. That's about as close as I remember. Anyway, he asked me if there was a rule as to what to do if the house is put under contract with the buyer. Buyer sees the house, it's in a certain condition, and then buyer comes back a couple of weeks later and it's not in the same condition. Whether that be pipes broken or whatever. Well, your contract should have something to cover this. That is number one and absolutely the most true reality. And you want to make sure that if your contract doesn't cover it, it becomes a bit of a gray area. There might be state law that fits in, so on and so forth. The general rule of thumb, what we have in our agreements, is that the seller will deliver the home in the condition it was seen when the buyer put it under contract, when the agreement was made. Now, that doesn't mean content. That we're talking about fixtures, not personal property. Personal property is stuff that's not bolted down. There's debate about things like stoves, which are typically connected with a gas line, so there's a threading. Those appliances can go both ways, but like the built-in microwave, that's a fixture. The furnace, that's a fixture. And in our contract, it says that, which is in every real estate realtor contract as well, that if fire, flood, or blood happens, something happens, the seller will make repairs or will compensate appropriately or will do something so that the buyer gets what they saw when they made their offer. Otherwise, the buyer has a reason to change what they want to offer. We had a deal in southern New York last week where minor things changed, like appliances were stolen. Not quite sure how the buyer knew the appliances were stolen unless they went in the house when they weren't supposed to, but whatever. And the buyer walked away from the deal at that point. So we had to, take some action on that because the buyer doesn't have a right to walk away from the deal. Can they? Yes. Should they lose their deposit? Yes. Seller decided not to hold them to that, but whatever. So that's what's supposed to happen there. Alongside that is mineral rights. This one just came up on another contract. In Pennsylvania, Mineral rights, not coal. Coal is never owned by the property owner. Coal is owned by the coal companies. If there's $1 billion in coal under your property, too bad, it ain't your coal. Just coal is statewide, not yours. But if there are other minerals, they are yours. Other underground resources. In your contract, if it's not specified, you're transferring those rights to the new owner. I sell my house. I don't have to say the coal, oil and gas and minerals and gold and whatever are transferred, but they are. However, if you've got a situation like the lady out in one of our sellers, she has property. There's already a gas lease on it. She doesn't wish to transfer the gas lease. Or there isn't other minerals. She does not wish to transfer the minerals. She owns the minerals. And that's fine. The contract is written to specify that. Okay, fine. And move on from that point, basically. Where that gets sticky, and this is me hypothesizing, is you want to make sure in the agreement between buyer and seller that, okay, if there's already a gas lease where there's already some plan for withdrawal of the resource, the buyer has the right to see that plan. They don't have a participation in the plan, but they have a right to know, hey, trucks are allowed to drive over my property, they're allowed to drive here or whatever. If there's nothing and it's simply, I don't want to sell the gas rights, I don't want to sell the mineral rights because I think I might need them in the future, then something should be drawn up between buyer and seller, saying that saying exactly, okay, we're not transferring, let me back up. So you're not transferring the mineral rights, but they're not giving anybody else. There's no contract. Some thought, and this is where attorneys come in, some thought should be given to when you, okay, so you're the, I'm getting confused here. So the seller sells the land, building, and improvements to some other party. They don't sell the minerals. In that agreement to sell the land, building, and materials, some thought should be given to when the minerals are sold, how that mineral owner accesses them. So that, and I don't know, lawyers will have done this a million times and just worth a conversation. This is not an expertise of mine. But something that says, hey, you own the minerals, but if the new buyer now owns the land, they can tell them, you can't drive on my property. You can have my minerals, but I don't know how you're going to get them because I'm not letting you drive on my property. So you want to have something figured out that says, I'm selling it, and here's how here's how I will access those minerals when the new owner takes over. Also gives the new owner a level of comfort. I was looking at a property on Harvey's Lake here and ended up not buying it, but not because of this reason. But my waterfront parcel had a deeded right for every house, certain number of houses behind me, to walk across my land to access the lake. It actually goes back to when farmers used to farm that land and they needed to get to the lake for water. Well, okay, that's great. But thankfully, someone in history had drawn a map and said, here is the path which we call the easement, which is where you're allowed to walk. So anybody from those houses couldn't just walk down and sit on my dock and, use my grill and say, well, I got legal right to be here. They were allowed to navigate this specific path. I don't know in this case where the path came from, but there was something that said, hey, you're there. Snowy Man, that sounds terribly not like American real estate, actually. So I could discuss it because I was actually in China during that time. But no, I just, and I think that we get into politics nowadays, it's just a bad plan. So I focus on real estate, but thank you. Anyway, by the way, it's really interesting to me. I watch the counts go up and down, and somebody just posted, I really love your videos, and then 30 seconds later, they're gone. So I'm really loving that people are watching this. That's great. But anyway, so same thing in the commercial world, by the way. The residential world has rules, has certain norms and whatever. Commercial world hasn't got shit. Okay, it just doesn't. There's a property, the old Conifals restaurant in Edwardsville, PA. Big anchor property along Main Street that is going through some tougher times now that it's been renovated, but whatever, there are some issues. However, the cell tower on top of the building was not transferred to the new owner in the sale. And that means that so just let me explain what that means in the commercial world. Someone bought the building from the Conifal family. They shut down their restaurant, whatever, life changed. The heirs sold the building. They did not sell the cell tower. So they collect the cell tower rent. That's why they didn't sell the cell tower, because those things make a crap load of money. Okay. The owner of the Conifal family heir that owned the building, who sold the building, still owns the cell tower, and she's renting out the access to it. So in the documentation, in the deed, I imagine, didn't look at the documentation, but somewhere in the filed documentation of the courthouse is an easement agreement that says people allowed by Sally Conifal, or whatever her name is, yada, 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 can access the tower. And now, as a buyer, I did not buy this building for many reasons, but one of which was this. As a buyer, I don't know. I have to maintain a building's roof and maintain the building, but not gain anything from the value, bluntly. So that's really wasn't my speed. I didn't have interest in that. I probably would have gone along with that if the other problems in the deal didn't scare me off. Some issues with what the town would allow and wouldn't allow that I wasn't okay with. But anyway, so what that means for me is for that person as the building owner is you've got someone climbing on your roof and climbing a tower on top of your building. And I mean, you can have all the hold harmlessness in the world, but if they slip on your roof, some attorney is going to say, well, it's the landlord's going to get dragged into it. So there are no standards, I guess is what I'm getting at, in commercial. I mean, there are minor ones, but pretty much no. So the other thing I wanted to cover today was in deal analysis, because I run into this an awful lot. So I'm going to share my screen and pull up a sheet for a deal that I'm considering buying. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm examining this deal. And by the way, deals can change consistently, literally up until the day of closing. But I'm going to pull up a deal here now that's not Grand Street Wilkesbury, but I'll use this one. I'll clone this one out. This is a deal I'm actually considering. I'm trying to decide what to do. I won't get into the deep. It's a 3-unit, possibly 4. It's 1, maybe 2 commercial downstairs and 2 residential upstairs. Not only 1 is rented, not all are even functionally legal and complete. So I'm going to calculate how those likely rental numbers would work out. So she's getting $1,100 for the front one, for the back one right now. So I'm going to assume she's going to get $1,100 for the other one, plus let's assume $1,100 for the retail space downstairs. That's the one that makes me nervous, because the retail space, it's built out as a restaurant. What if nobody wants a restaurant? I keep hearing, well, we've had lots of people interested in it. Well, no one's in it, so whatever. And I'm going to put in $400 for my own rent. Actually, I'm going to put only 200 my own rent because I don't know that I want to be paying rent. That's kind of the point I'm buying the building. And so I take on my deals, by the way, what I changed up here was the purchase price. I pretty much know what they're going to ask for purchasing the property or what they're going to accept. So then I go to my oh god. All right, so I'm just going to pull up. I'm just going to plug in fake numbers. They may not be exactly true, but we'll see. So I'm pretty sure then we come down here and we fill in our maintenance vacancy management, which for me is 10%, 10%, 10%. Almost no one does this. 555 is what's required. 10, 10, 10 is a lot, but it's what I go with. 1,900 taxes. There's 1, 2, 3 units, so 2,400 residential. Insurance, and let's say 1,500 and other stuff. So that means that this building needs to make a 1.23, and it does. Or it needs to make 1.25, makes 1.23. So it's close. So I can make this offer fairly safely. And actually, the double safely. First of all, I'm doing a few things most investors will not do. The first thing is my pads are huge. The second thing is I'm paying interest on the entire purchase price. So my down payment is even being charged interest. That's the second thing. And the third thing is this. I'm taking out what I call double expenses. And I'm doing this on purpose. If it passes this litmus test, then I've got a winner of a deal. This is more complex than you guys will go, but this is one of the spreadsheets we have available to us. So I'm taking out the payment, the amortized payment and interest, PITI. Sorry, just PI, payments and interest, not TI, not taxes and insurance. This is taxes and insurance. So all this together is PITI. Usually you don't take PITI out of, so basically, usually you don't take PITI out of up here because you already have your taxes, insurance, and sewer down here. So I'm literally doing it twice. I'm charging it as a hard expense, and I'm also taking it out as what they call a lender escrow. Only one is necessary. I either give it to the lender as an escrow, or I take it out as a hard expense. But I want to acid test this. And it's passing the acid test in a phenomenal way. It's passing the acid test. So that's where this deal math works. Now I could do a lot of other things that would make the deal work even better. Okay. There's one thing I could do to hurt it a little bit is I could put in 20 cents square foot times 4,000 square feet. So $4,000 over 5, so around $1,000. But it won't really change it a huge amount. It's whatever. So the point is, I can acid test it even to this point and say, wow, it's getting a 1.17, but I'm taking out a huge maintenance vacancy management pad. I am double hitting every one of my expenses because literally in my formula, this part here takes these three and divides by 12. So it's coming out twice. So the point is that we have a bunch of different spreadsheets for different situations. This is if you want to sell something to me personally. If we're pricing it out, does it work for someone else? I'm not taking these out. And I'm not doing double expenses. So what you'll see if I do it the way every other investor would do it. And then function J31. And then if I take this out, just for fun, now you'll see my DSCR is up at 1.5. Again, 1.25 is all it needs to be. So I really get a lot of room on this particular deal. So I am offering on this deal. This was actually me deciding literally live in front of you whether I'm going to offer on this particular transaction. So yes, I am. So this was just a little bit of a snippet of how I analyze real estate investment deals. Hey, Alex, considering signing up at our website, RIHomepage.com, and joining our team. We're always looking for more people. And guys, that's the point here. I do these videos not just because I'm bored, but believe me, I'm not bored. I do these videos because I want to help you make money in real estate. That's the point. Yes, I make money while you make money. We joint venture on stuff. Or you pay me as an educator. Either way, the point is, I'm here to help you. But I can only help you if you join our team. So please go to REIHomepage.com, sign up to join our team. Actually, I'll even put the direct link in here just to make life easier for everybody. REI Answer Man is the best place to go. And you don't need to be paying us anything. We do like it when you do pay us something. It's always wonderful. But it can also be our free JV program. If you don't want to pay us anything and you just want to join up as a team member, I can analyze what Ferris Bueller's Home would be worth today. I do charge $250 for every deal analysis, though. So if you want to Venmo me some money, we can discuss that. Other than that, guys, take a look, see what you think. Whoops. And I'll see you tomorrow is licensed agents. So if you are a licensed agent, you're joining us at the firm, let me know. We'll help you.